The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. This game launched on November 20th, 2011, and has been receiving fantastic reviews from all over, and even before that date. Does this game live up to its reviews, or is it just another shovelware title Nintendo developed for a cash cow? We'll find out.
Hey guys, Zinda here, and I'm here for the review of Skyward Sword. So, just loading into my game here real quick. A couple things that I just want to mention. First of all, overall, I really did enjoy the game. I think it's very well put together. It's presented very nicely as well, which is another thing that I like a lot. Link, first of all, as you can see, has a stamina meter. As you hold down A button as you run, the stamina meter gets used. You can collect little fruit as you're running to refill the stamina meter, but if it runs out, he starts to drag. And there's many fights in the game where enemies will just do nothing but drain stamina, and it makes fights a lot harder, but a lot more entertaining. Now, we're going to go over a couple of things that I absolutely cannot stand. One, everything in this game deals a heart of damage except for keys. Absolutely everything. And because you start the game with 6 hearts, which I think is also kind of lame. Now, the reason why I think it's lame that you start with 6 hearts is because that's 3 full heart containers that Nintendo could have used for, dungeons, or pieces of hearts. That could have been 12 more pieces of hearts or anything like that. So that's one thing that truly that I really didn't like, is that you started with 6 hearts. But everything deals like a heart of damage, if not more, if you take damage, which is also kind of lame because it just seems that enemies are purposely stronger. I do like this part though. This is kind of nice. You can just jump off at any time and collect your bird and go flying pretty much anywhere. And let me show you a little bit of the overworld here first. Let's see. This is Skyloft. We'll zoom in. Skyloft is right here. What I don't like is that I thought the sky was going to be a little bit bigger. I thought it was going to be more of like how Wind Waker was, where there's a bunch of islands all over the place and you can sort them. But no, there's only a couple islands that actually have a purpose. There's one here, there's one up here, one right here. There's a small one right here, and a lot of the islands are only have purposes for like once or twice type of visit scenario. So the exploration of the game is very it almost really doesn't exist. I mean, there is some exploring, but it's not as intense as people think it is. In addition to that, if you look at the map, if I zoom out here a bunch of times, there's the Elden Volcano, which is on the top, there's Faron Woods, which is on the bottom right, and then there's the Nairu Deserts area on the bottom left. Each area is... Now, if you've watched my very first video that I've ever made, my very first video I ever made was on exploring the overworld, and how much I cannot stand that you have to explore each individual area in Minish Cap to get to the dungeon. And it's exactly how these areas are. If you go to Faron Woods on the bottom, it's pretty much a very linear pathway directly to the dungeon. Same with the Elden Volcano and the desert area. It's all very linear in how to get to each dungeon. So the exploration of the game only exists after you get the dungeon item in the area that you are in, because then you can go back to the area that you're in and re-explore it, because there is some stuff to get. But that's really about it. So finding all the pieces of hearts and everything like that was not very difficult to do. So that's another thing I really didn't like. Let me land here first, and I'll show you something. I'll show you something about the inventory here. But like I said, I mean, you skydive down here, and you can pick a statue that you already visited at. But once you're down here, everything's very linear. There's not much stuff to do. in terms of actual exploration. There's these things called goddess cubes that you can collect on the surface. If you get goddess cubes, they open up goddess chests in the sky. And the majority of the goddess chests are pieces of heart. So, like I said, collecting the pieces of heart are not that hard to find. Now, the combat is something I love. Of course, all you do is swing the Wii remote, and this is just me moving my hand. You do have the thing called the Skyward strike that if you charge it, you can swing a beam. So that's kind of cool. But what I really love about combat is the shield. The shield plays such a huge pivotal role in combat, and actually makes it useful. And you can't really see it on the screen. Let me move the camera a little bit. But in the top right-hand corner of the screen, which I really can't point to, there's a little shield meter underneath my life. The shield meter basically is for if the shield takes damage, if an enemy attacks you and you don't block it, but it hits your shield's going to take damage. If it gets down to low, it'll break. What I like about the shields, though, is that you have to have a couple of them. Some of them are immune to electricity, some of them are immune to fire, but the one that I'm particularly using right now is immune to both, and it heals itself if it takes damage, so which is really kind of nice to have. I do love the inventory system here. All you do is hold down B. You can still move while you're holding it. So if I want my bow equipped, what's really weird is that you have to hold down B to get to your inventory, and as soon as you click on the item, you auto-pull it out. And it's really weird because you have to hit A to shoot an arrow. Or hold down A, or you can pull back the nunchuck to shoot an arrow. It gets a little bit getting to used to because of the fact that you're moving while switching. I do like that the bombs, you can bowl them. It's a little awkward though because you actually have to have your nunchuck facing or not your nunchuck, your Wii remote facing the ground. So it's a little off on that. The beetle's really nice. What I don't like about the inventory though is the fact that if you want to Z-target an enemy and use a ranged weapon, you lose Z-targeting. You have to always auto-aim. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go through a battle with two Lizalfos that are standing over here all the time, no matter how often you beat them. And the reason why I'm going to go through this battle is because I'm going to show you the advantages of the shield. They have a tail attack that when they swing their tail, if you block it, it stuns them. So I'm going to try my best here to defeat them. Oh, got to get this first. This is one part that's annoying. Every time you get a spoil, for the first time after you reload, it goes into your spoils bag and then adds it to it. And it's all about how you block with the shield, which is really, really cool. So battles and fights are really, really unique. And like I said, I really like the idea of the inventory here. Then you also have a pouch. Now this is your pouch. You get shield, you get a total of 5 bottles, which I currently don't have on me, but then you get all your bag upgrades, and you get 2 things called life medals. And life medals kind of go hand in hand with why I don't like that you start with 6 hearts. These 2 life medals count as 2 heart containers, 1 apiece. If you don't have them, you don't get to have 20 hearts in the game. And I think it was just another way that Nintendo was just copping out of not giving you either more dungeons or more heart containers to collect or more pieces to collect. And that's another thing too, the game kind of lacks side quests, so it really could have used a little bit more than that. I do like though that these should be rare, and these should allow you to go above 20, and they don't. That's what I don't like about them. The shield goes here. If you simply click on it, you just unequip your shield. You can walk around with no shield, and you just simply click on it again to re-equip it. And then all your things go here. Now the thing is, you start the game with only 4 of these, and you have to upgrade as you go on. So it really makes you choose what you want to bring with you, which is really, really cool. But basically, some of the fights are a little weird. There are very few fights where you can actually just waggle the Wii remote and you'll still win. But there are a lot of fights where you really have to think strategically in how you want to battle. So the reason why I actually went here is because this is one of the coolest ideas in the game. There's a thing called life crystals, and this life crystal particularly is in the ship, so it's a terrible example. It's actually in this spot right here. But what a life crystal does is that this province, this desert area, is all desert wasteland. However, when a life crystal, or time crystal I should say, when a time crystal is activated, it brings that particular place back in time to what it used to look like. So this robot here is actually a character in the past, according to when this game takes place. And however, but because this desert used to be a lake back in the time, when the time crystal's activated, this ship, or this little dinghy, is on water now, and as the ship moves, the water follows you. And it's kind of a cool idea that Nintendo used throughout the course of the game, or throughout the course of at least this desert area. I thought was really, really neat. And it was just a really, really fresh idea. So overall, if I were to rate the game based off of graphics, I think this looks by far the best Zelda game that Nintendo has ever made in terms of the graphics and what Zelda should bring out in terms of fantasy. It's very colorful, very nice. I love the story. It explains the origin of the Master Sword. It explains why there's almost a Ganondorf in every game at the end of this game. It explains that. The harp that you get is the same harp that Sheik uses in Ocarina of Time. It's a really, really cool concept. It really ties everything together, and it's very well done. I don't like that every single area is a complete linear pathway to a dungeon. Just like how in Minish Cap you have to beat the area first to get to the dungeon. That sucks. But Skyloft kind of makes up for it because you do explore through Skyloft a little bit. So with that, the story is good. The gameplay is spot on. Swimming sucks because you have to pivot the Wii Remote to swim, and I just don't understand why they couldn't have made it normal. Oh, and by the way, Slingshot, most useless item again. Nintendo, please, for the love of God, get rid of the Slingshot. You just don't need it anymore. It's pointless. It's the only pointless item in your inventory after you get the bow. Everything else you use constantly, so it's a very good inventory. If I were to give it a number, because of some smaller gripes that I have about it, like starting with 6 hearts, the life medals and things like that, lack of side quests, but how amazing the story is, the dungeons are awesome. I honestly would have to say that Skyward Sword gets a good, honest 9.25 out of 10. If your opinion is different, please tell me why, and please give me your own number, and we will talk to you guys next time. Goodbye.